Hi, my name is Leslie Michael. I'm a soil scientist for the Okanogan Conservation District, and I am really excited and passionate about improving soil health and just education and outreach that comes with that. And I grew up on a farm, and so I'm really excited about working with farmers. And so I have the perfect job in order to be able to do this. On this project, we got funding from REACCH. We worked with Rainier Seeds for cover crops. They donated some seed for that. And I also worked with Dale Whaley, Douglas County Extension for WSU. So this is my farmer, Ed Townsend, T3 Ranch. He and his brothers run the ranch, and he came into my office shortly after I had started work, and he had just seen a presentation from Ray Archuleta. And so he came in and he was super excited about cover crops, and we started having this conversation. And spring came along and we didn't get anything done. So the following year, when we saw this REACCH proposal come open, called him up, I said, hey, let's get this going, and we'll start moving in this direction. So they're using it a lot in the Midwest, these cover crops. They're coming in, improving soil health. People are seeing an increase in yields. They're seeing all sorts of benefits. Their environment is a little different. They get their rain at a different time of year. Some of these guys in the Midwest are using cover crops to remove moisture from the field, which is the opposite of what we're trying to do. So there's not a whole lot of information in our area about cover crops. And it's only been in the last couple years that people have started looking at this. I'd say the Direct Seed Association has been a huge proponent of this. I've been to their conferences the last 2 years. There's a lot of talk about soil health and direct seeding in their meetings. And so in that, there's been a couple of researchers. I know Diana Roberts out of Davenport has done some cover crop trials, as well as Wayne, I don't know his last name, Thompson from Walla Walla, who started doing some of these. And we started looking at what they were doing. They were leaving their cover crops in all year. We really weren't sure that that was going to be the best route. So we decided to do a little bit shorter period for having those cover crops in. And there's a lot of local interest. There's a lot of guys in Douglas County who are starting to look at cover crops. They've seen all the benefits that come with direct seeding and the difference that it's made in their soils. And so now they want to take it a step further. And they want to start looking at these other tools that they can use in order to improve their soil health. So our target audience for this project has been dryland wheat fallow systems. These are guys, like I said, who have been direct seeding already. Currently I'm working with some guys who are just in that transition. So this will be their first year that they're starting to look at direct seeding. And really their whole attitude has to be about soil health. This is really experimental in our region. Like I said, there's not a whole lot of information to guide us. We look at the principles. We know that cover crops have all these benefits to soil health. We know that it can increase biological activity, which has all sorts of benefits. We know that it increases aggregate stability, breaking up compaction. These guys, you can see the lines in here, and they're dealing with some of this. And the area that we put our plots on, they do winter feeding on there. So they bring the cattle in, they try and bring them in after frost, and so they're not causing compaction. But when we went out there with a penetrometer, we were hitting 300 pounds to try and get that in. So some of the areas we didn't get it back past 2 or 3 inches into the ground. So that's the sort of ground that we are trying this on. the major concern for cover crops in our area is soil moisture, and there's a lot of talk about this if any of you attended the Direct Seed Conference. We're in an area getting between 8 and 12 inches of rain on a good year, and so it's really dry. In this picture you can see this top one. This was one of our field days. Right there you can see we got, we planted these in April, and we terminated them shortly after this field day about the 1st of June. So they were allowed to grow. Personally, I would have liked to see a little bit more above ground biomass. But everyone who came out there was really excited about how much it was able to grow. We also brought cattle in on it. And so this was sort of to see, they're talking a lot in North Dakota, and some of what Doug and Ken shared with you about bringing cattle on. We wanted to see if we could reap any of those benefits, and this was really an interest of mine. So we brought them in on half. I like to say that ranchers are like herding cats, to try and bring them all together and get these on-farm trials can be really challenging. So I went out there a couple days after we had planted our cover crops, and there were 100 cattle out there in the field. And the brother hadn't known that we had put this in and had let the cattle all loose onto the trial. It hadn't grown too much, so I don't think there was too much damage from that. But even putting these cows out there, they were really reluctant to go out there the first couple days, and then you could tell by the last couple days they were sitting there waiting by the fence, waiting for someone to open that up and let them back out there. And that's what I've heard is that once the cattle get used to eating this stuff, they really like it. So we talked a little bit how these cover crops are going to affect soil, and I used one of the big concerns is that, and so we wanted to put in soil moisture sensors. So this is what we used. It's super simple. This is made by Omega, and it's a 1 sensor and data logger. And so we were just able to put this in and then record for each of our mixes. We did one in the spring. Like I said, we came in April 1st and terminated about June 1st. We did a summer mix that we came in on about the 20th of May, and that was terminated, I think, about the 28th of June. And so this is information that we haven't had before. And our control, you can see, stayed pretty steady throughout the project. And our spring planting was over here, so we got that in. We didn't get the soil moistures in right away. So we got those in, and we terminated them right here. So we could start tracking that they were losing moisture. We terminated them right here. We got about 0.25 inches of precip. And so we saw that move back up. And then as the summer went on, it continued to drop, and we didn't get any more soil moisture or any more precipitation until here we got about 0.25 inches of rain. So that's what our spring did, and our summer mix that we put in really had the response that we wanted to see. And that was when we got this rainfall event, it jumped. And even though we used up moisture at the end of the season, this would have been right before planting, when we got that precip event, it jumped back up, and we had no net loss at that point in time. I've talked to a lot of people about this. The best we can sort of come up with is that we're opening up that soil, and those roots are acting like wicks. So one, we're increasing the amount of soil moisture that's leaving, but we're also increasing infiltration, which is what we really want to see. We took some soil tests at the end or at the beginning and didn't take any more at the end. I really wish that we had waited and just taken them right before planting. Would have made a little bit more sense. But really, this grant comes down to, we did education and outreach. We had about 3 different field days, and at one of those was the Washington State Conservation Commission tour, which was in Okanogan County this last year. And so we had a lot of people from around the state, so we were able to share our project with them. One of those people was Bud Hover, who's our Director of Agriculture, who has been willing to write letters of support for our project. So we did a couple of field days. I was asked to be on the Soil Health Committee because of this grant. This has really pushed us forward. And the best thing that's come from this is that I was able to start working with more people and having these conversations. So I applied for this NRCS Conservation Innovation Grant in this last year. We received that. So this next year I'll be working with 16 different farmers in 4 counties, and over the next 3 years we will be planting about 1,800 acres into cover crops. So we really have been able to expand this project. This funding was really our jumping off point. I'm working with a lot of people. We're going to be able to collect a lot of really valuable data for this project, so I'm super excited. And then this is kind of takeaway things I want you all to know as you leave here. I went out to look to see if there was any change. We could see any change there, not really. Weed control. Some of these, what you can see here is the sorghum Sudan grass. We had a little bit trouble killing that out. But definitely going in and spraying before is really helpful. Blackleg, I don't know how many of you guys have heard about this. This is a fungus that comes in on brassicas. They're really having a problem with it in the Willamette Valley. And it's something that we really need to be aware of in purchasing certified blackleg-free seed on any of your brassicas. And cover crops, I want to say, are just one tool in this bigger picture of looking at soil health and ultimately climate change. The soil is just this incredible body, living, breathing, and it's so dynamic. And being aware of it and using it to start mitigating some of these effects we can see, I think it's really important. So any questions?
Did you monitor in any specific way the weed control benefits of the cover crops, or was it more just visual sort of observations?
Yeah, we had a little fire up in Okanogan in July called the Carlton Complex. So our office has been fighting that. So it was unfortunate because come about middle of July, I didn't even get out there for 6 weeks. We didn't do really well in the weed control beforehand, especially on the summer mix. And we didn't really see any benefits to that. I don't think we got as good of above ground biomass that some of the other areas that get more rainfall will see. I know Dan Harwood with the Palouse Rock Lake Conservation District, he's done some of that, and they saw really great weed control benefits. And they saw that they put on application of Roundup before they put it in, and then they didn't have to do any more applications the rest of the year, which, if we can have that impact, would be huge financially for the farmers. So that's something we'll be watching for as we move forward with this NRCS CIG grant. We'll be collecting above ground biomass and total carbon and nitrogen and bioassays and infiltration and soil moisture. And so we'll be collecting a lot of data.